All right, again, it is March 31st, 2024. And the video that I just captured of that's evidence of demonic activity. Understand that the supernatural occurrence of that light appearing on my ceiling. In the same way you're witnessing demonic activity, the supernatural appearance of magnified light on my bedroom wall through closed blinds. Those blinds were closed. And you saw the the leaves on the trees outside on the outside of the apartment appearing through the magnification of light through my window and through what are closed blinds. You're witnessing the demonic. This is evidence of that which I am telling you. I'm giving you the evidence that you can see with your eyes, that you can hear with your ears, and the evidence of that which is invisible. Okay, the evidence of that which you cannot see. All right, so that's what you're witnessing. And the evidence of that which you cannot see is a criminal act committed by a government. And this criminal system is federal group stalking and monitoring. That's the why. That's why that impossible light activity. That's why the heavy stalking in helicopters. That's why the ongoing harassment by sirens. This is why you have what is the placement of light into the depths of hallways and shadows on ceilings and patterns of blinds, just like you saw moments ago. I want to document. And this is the evidence against the people of the state that live with Alvarado Gardens around me. They are living at a crime scene. And this is the evidence, the body of evidence that I have been, you can disregard this because the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct every day. So this is essentially a template. This is federal group stalking and monitoring. This is a baseline list of federal charges. The people of the state are going to federal prison. As I'm here documenting, subject to every person living at this community is monitoring me. This is a sex offender while you're looking at impossible light activity on my ceiling. They're monitoring me. So in the same way that they use my television, by the way, as a means of monitoring. So for example, this is what I'm going to let you know something. The reason why you already know that what I'm telling you is my credibility has already been established. You don't have what are years and years of ongoing documentation. For example, stalking in helicopters. That's not an ongoing coincidence. I'm not going chasing down helicopters while I'm in my hotel room, while I'm sleeping outside, while they're flying in circles over me. And I also have the ability to create engineered light around me. And I also have the ability to keep a light source, which is supposed to be the sun, over me for the duration of the day. No, I don't have the ability to do that. This is an ongoing pattern of conduct. And what I'm going to tell you now is within the pattern of conduct and its demonic conduct, it's also letting you know what is a sex offender. The entity is using my television, which is a communication device, in order to monitor me. And so I'm going to give you an example while I'm in my bed under the blankets, right? Movement, which is for the most part, inaudible. Nobody outside of the apartment should be able to hear what I'm doing as I move my toes, like you see on camera. But I'm going to let you know, maintaining this same position, just watching television for a prolonged period. The moment that I make a new move and I start, for example, scratching the bottom of my foot with my other toe, immediately the television goes it'll break into an ad on the television. That's the creation of light activity and audible activity, or the audio that is on, it'll immediately turn off. That's the creating activity and it's in the form of, as the screen changes, that creates light activity. It creates visible activity. It creates also audible activity, a change in what you are hearing immediately, going from sound to no sound, or going from no sound to the creation of sound. This is monitoring conduct. And it is facilitation. While the entity is keeping a light source over my apartment, and you know that it's rising over in alignment to my apartment and setting in alignment to my apartment all day long. And then I provided the documentation where you would juxtapose. Not only do you know that on its face is not the natural environment, you also know, because I provided a documentation of what is the natural environment and in a totally different part of a region. For example, the Fontana Lewis Library, where the entity was doing the same thing, keeping a light source over my head, both as I traveled to that venue and then remained there. No matter what time I arrived there, it would follow me there, as opposed to being there at the time that I previously documented and then staying for it. That none of it was natural at all. And this is how you get the documentation of what is following with an environment, remaining with an environment, getting light on your ceiling. This is evidence of what is demonic activity, the demon possessed, and it's criminal conduct. They're monitoring with communication devices, doing so in a private space. And in the same way as I use what is my foot to scratch the bottom, okay, this is new movement with simultaneity to this new movement, which is inaudible to the human ear. Nobody else is in my apartment. Immediately, activity is created using an inanimate object inside of my private space while I'm surrounded in the specific environment. The entity is maintaining the light source here. And I just captured video of what is impossible light activity, the pattern of the closed blinds. Okay. The blinds are closed. But these same closed blinds in the evening, it results in light on this bedroom wall. But these closed blinds right now is creating light. No, it has nothing to do with the creation of anything. I want to be clear. The demonic is witnessed through the light, the presence of the light that you're looking at. But what you are what you've been trained, our finite vision, us as human beings, very much focused on the physical. I want to be clear, you are associating what you're looking at based on what you've been told, that this is sunlight and that that's the sun. And I want to let you know that you are witnessing the demonic through the presence of that light. It is literally a satanic act, the presence of the satanic through this light. There's nothing that is creating it. It's not a reflection going through the blinds. It has nothing to do with it. This is the presence of Satan, okay? Through the very light activity. This presence of Satan, this is what compels, this is what is creating the ongoing obsessive stalking by the Los Angeles Police Department. They're demons. Demons are surrounding my apartment, living in relevant position. These demons have no religious protections. This is a government that's practicing a monitoring system, that is keeping you under surveillance. And it is evidenced through the environment that you are surrounded by. This environment is scientifically impossible. That's relevant in the federal courts as what is going to be prosecuted as terrorism. You can use this demonic environment for what is evidence of what is created for purposes of the criminal system monitoring with communication devices through your TV, for example, cell phones and whatnot. This demonic activity affects the phone, affects telephone use while they're monitoring on my phone and seeking to engage in ways to obstruct my ability to publish documentation, for example. But literally, while they engage in this demonic behavioral pattern, engage in the three elements of monitoring: relevant positioning, light activity, and audible activity, all three elements remain at all times. This is the engagement in what is also demonic activity. This demonic activity is criminal. And it's also criminal because it is by the government. The government is, and you also know that because the government is engaging in these criminal elements of monitoring in the specific environment pursuant to an identical behavioral pattern. Demons engaging in this uncanny ability to always be in the path with some method of light activity, audible activity, and with simultaneity also to what the target individual is doing. So while sirens are sounding on a cloudy day, the entity is covering up its light source when I'm using vivid illustrations of what I've already documented to show you what the light source is doing here, that is remaining stationary all day long, and what the Fontana Police Department is doing while it's remaining over me in Fontana at the Fontana Lewis Library at the intersection of Arrow and Sierra Avenue. The entity is covering up the light source. Engineered light already remains, by the way. This is Exhibit A. The light source has nothing to do with the placement of the engineered light that you see all over the grounds, all over the property, which you call sunlight. It's not sunlight. It has nothing to do with the sun. In fact, what I've shown you, that light source isn't even the sun. The reason why I don't refer to it as the sun, because the sun is what we associate with the natural environment. There's nothing natural about the environment when this so-called sun is rising and setting in alignment to my apartment in Los Angeles for the duration of the day. That's 11 hours. That's 11, 12 hours. That's unnatural and it's impossible. That is witnessing the demonic. You will never under any circumstances be able to see light shooting in the depth of your apartment through closed blinds, and those little holes in the blinds are creating magnified size of light, and you can see the leaves of the trees blowing in those while it's magnified that's what you saw yesterday. You're witnessing the presence of Satan. Satan is also present through people. Satan uses people. Satan is present in the environment. This demonic system, this demonic activity is criminal. It's accomplishing surveillance by a government who is obsessively stalking in helicopter. And those demons who knew exactly what I was documenting as I captured that video and then proceeded to upload my video for the day March 31st, 2024. At the same time, those demons who are stalking 24/7, engaging in a sex offense, because while activity is created inside of my private space, in the moment that I scratch my toe in my blanket, inside of my bedroom, inside of my apartment, the entity is stalking with activity creation using my television. Those same demons that are monitoring me in that precise manner, to that degree, are sex offenders that are monitoring me as I pull my panties down and engage in any private activity, such as necessarily touching myself when I'm relieving myself, disrobing, getting in the shower, washing my body parts, closely monitoring at all times. Understand the sex offender that is the demon possessed who are placing you under surveillance. Understand the sex offender that is placing you under surveillance in the private space, knowing exactly what you're doing when you're doing it. This is the evidence of the sex offense that the people of the state, all of whom are going to federal prison at Alvarado Gardens. They are living at a crime scene. the date that they move out of their apartment. I've got a couple, for example, 30-day notices. They're going to federal prison for the time that they engaged in criminal surveillance on behalf of a law enforcement agency who has no constitutional basis or authority under any circumstances to place an American citizen under surveillance. They can't come into my apartment and place me under surveillance. They can't stake me out next door or across the street. Legally, they can't legally do it. And they also can't do it through the people. And that's what group stalking is. Criminal surveillance by an entity, and this entity is demon possessed also. This is demonic activity that is referred to as a secret society. The secret society are demons. They're demons. And what they do is a matter of what is spiritual darkness, but this is criminalizing what they're engaging in as a dark entity. This is occurring within the context of the United States, within the context of a government which is ruled and surrounded by, controlled by what are laws and policies in this country, particularly with the government and the branches of government. The police are within the executive branch, and they are limited, restricted, okay, to what is the basis upon which you can engage in any sort of surveillance. This is done through the people. And so this is understanding the government shall not place you under surveillance outside of the constitutional bounds. Group stalking is unlawful, it's criminal. And also, the government shall not do it vicariously through the people, which is the malicious system of group stalking in concert with a bunch of demons who are intentionally trying to maintain an outward appearance as though they are in the substantially similar circumstances of the targeted individual, and they're not. This is the malice. And you also have the evidence of it through that entirely demonic environment. And all of these terms, which I'm using with regard to the demonic, is going to be prosecuted as terrorism. It's entirely terrorism. It's entirely terrorizing, to be placed under surveillance by a bunch of psychopaths whom you instinctively know that they are following you around. But they look to the left and the right, and they are all acting oblivious to the ongoing maintenance of helicopters all day long and all night long. All right. And they're also around you while you have the phenomenon surrounding you and the light source, which is rising over and setting over you during the day, which is supposed to be the sun. And you have what is that terrorizing scene of shadows on your ceiling and multiple shadows when you're walking outside. And you're always subject to what are people following you around and placing their headlights on you. That's a demon stalking in the path. There are things that people identify. It's within a pattern of conduct. And this is something that is frequently occurring. It's just that people don't recognize it to be within a pattern of conduct, not individualized. It's within an entity, and it's entirely demonic, and it's terrorism. To see through closed blinds the magnification of light inside of your bedroom through a sun that should already have been way far away from your apartment, where it was rising in alignment to your apartment, and you're seeing the trees blowing in the wind through that's entirely terrorizing. That's some freak weirdo stuff. Okay. And you're surrounded by this because a government that has no lawful basis not even the lawful basis, they don't even have a reason. You're targeting American citizens who have broken no law. They're minding their business. Okay. And you are so hovering, such a stalker, even as I scratch my toe under my blanket, which is inaudible to the human ear. The entity is closely monitoring. That's the sex offender. Everybody at Alvarado Gardens is engaging in criminal conduct on behalf of the police in the same way the police are going to federal prison for this. The police are going to be disbanded for this. The people of their state standing in the shoes of that, they're going to federal prison for this. And that's everybody building 1800 through building 1818, with the exception of the targeted individual. I'm in apartment 1806, number 6. Everybody's going to federal prison. And this is documenting what is a matter of justice and how you're going to treat the people of the state who engage in what is criminal surveillance, group stalking in concert and on behalf of the targeted individual. And this is direct evidence going against the people of the state. This is documentation of the sex offense. This is documentation of what is terrorism by the government and that ongoing supernatural phenomenon, which has nothing to do with the placement of the light source. It's currently, by the way, 9:35 a.m. Documentation of what is the maintenance of the light source in over 435 South Bonneview. I want you to see up close. This is light activity. And this is the pattern of those blinds. And also at nightfall, I've shown you pictures. The pattern of those blinds appear on this wall. They appear on this wall. It's like the pattern of the blinds, they occur in like, it's like patches of the pattern of blinds. This is the pattern of the blinds that appear here. If you could see it, there it is right there, impossible light. And here it is right here. Demons surround me and they're monitoring. This is group stalking that I'm subject to inside of my apartment. How are demons monitoring and group stalking you? Demons stalk in your path with light. So they surround my private space with light. This is capturing the sex offense. This is evidence of the sex offense. The government has no business placing you under surveillance, recording you, stalking you while your panties are down. That's a very highly demented sex offender. And they're going to the extreme to stalk you in a helicopter. They're literally climbing in helicopters, keeping helicopters gassed up so that they can stalk you and then try to threaten you when you're uploading the evidence of the fact that they're stalking you. That's a very violent sex offender, a psychotic one. This is the evidence of that psychopath. Under no circumstances whatsoever, okay? And this is the admission that's going to be submitted against, for example, Haley, she's going to federal prison. The demons that are monitoring you, the demons that know when you're pulling your panties down, then come to your office under the light source, all right, in the engineered light that's reaching underneath a doorway into the depths of your office, while they are monitoring through that audible activity of a psychopath, and then they are with the, this is the foolish provision of evidence against them. She's going to federal prison for a long time. She's a psychopath and a violent sex offender who was surrounded by a body of evidence, who was highly delusional. All right, I want you to see this light activity, but then you're looking at the light activity on my ceiling. It has nothing to do with the placement of the light source. And at 9:35 a.m. when I am at Ontario, California, capturing the Ontario Police Department group stalking at the Ontario Hope Boulevard car wash, like I reminded you about at 9:25 in the morning on March 15, 2022, there is no sun that will be present here. And I continue to maintain documentation on March 15th. I then went west on Hope Boulevard to Stater Brothers. On March 14th, I'm at 435 South Bonneview. The entity is maintaining a light source over 435 South Bonneview. This is the evidence that's already published. The entity is maintaining the light source also over the Fontana Lewis Library. All of those addresses, first of all, in the Inland Empire are speaking to the pattern of conduct. All of those all of those addresses are mutually exclusive to what is the venue here in Los Angeles, where the entity is rising as though the sun is rising in alignment to this window and setting in alignment to that window. I want you to see right here, this is my shadow that's appearing on the ceiling. And this is all that which the entity does to terrorize the targeted individual, while the targeted individual is horrified and freaked out and weirded out by those who they know are following them, who maliciously engage in harassing them, knowing that and anticipating and intentionally, deliberately terrorizing them while they are stalking, knowing that the targeted individual lacks the vocabulary, the ability to articulate what they're subject to and who's doing it to them. And it's serving for let me be clear, this is occurring because the ordinary target individual is supposed to be falsely depicted as one suffering from some mental incapacity. I want you to understand, while my shadow is appearing in the hallway that has no light on, there's no light on in my hallway. This is supposed to be sunlight that's on the floor. That's light on the ceiling inside of my bedroom. I don't have any lights on in this apartment. Sunlight does not create this sort of light through closed blinds. Sunlight does not create that sort of reflection where your shadow would appear. I want to be clear, my body is being molested and I'm also being terrorized while they're keeping me under surveillance. And at 9:19 a.m., while those sex offenders that are identified as the LAPD know that I'm uploading video, at the same time speaking to what is criminal monitoring on a communication device, the absence of a coincidence. Also, there are no coincidences in the specific environment. That is the admission of the sex offender who is continuously providing evidence against the people of the state. 59 of those who live, 59 units at Alvarado Gardens, they're all going to federal prison. In the same way that the LAPD is going to be disbanded and they're going to federal prison. You're also talking about necessary mental examinations. Okay, the absolute it's inexplicable why you would engage in targeting an American citizen in this manner. For what purpose? But I want to let you know what is the malice. That is the demon possession. This is Satan using people. Okay, but the people, it's legally relevant because the people that Satan is using, they're in the government. So you're going to prosecute the government for employing demonic, ritualistic tactics and placing one under surveillance in violation of existing Title federal law, Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. And that sex offense is massive. You see all the property along the hillside. If you're aware where I'm at on Alvarado Street, all the people that stay at this neighboring environment, those demons that are driving while universal waste is coming and arriving at nightfall, monitoring me in my private space in the same manner. 24-hour surveillance. That's what the people of the state are doing. While they are present in relevant position, creating activity which is amplified, while impossible light is moving across my ceiling, while a demon is operating a vehicle calling itself universal waste. The entity is group stalking by the neighboring demons who are driving out of a gate, and impossible light is swiping across building 1818. That's the terrorism that I documented the other morning. They are sex offenders who also know when I'm pulling my panties down. Understand that federal group stalking and monitoring is the evidence of a perpetual sex offense, and this sex offense is committed by a government. The people of the state are in the shoes of the government, and this is a sex offense that you're talking about the sexual violence by who are absolute strangers. You cannot number all of those that are engaged in what you are doing inside of your private space. That's a massive sex offense. Okay, the violence employed in that sex offense, the violation of privacy, it's unfathomable. And a government is sponsoring that. And it is evidenced through what is the demonic environment that is inexplicable. This is inexplicable light activity, even outside of the body of evidence that exists to the maintenance of a sun over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts at the same time. Because the two are not happening at the same time. If the sun's over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, which is a matter of documentation, there is no sun and there is no sunlight under any circumstances that's reaching through a window, doing, again, the acrobats. The window has a covering. The sun is above us, reaching under a covering and doing gymnastics to point through like a laser through closed blinds and create magnified light. That's under no circumstances sunlight. All you're looking at this later in the day, then the entity's putting it on the ceiling. And the entity is maintaining ongoing engineered light. That's how you have what is a shadow that's appearing above me. Has nothing to do, that's not sunlight. This is the direct evidence. The LAPD, you're talking about the entire department, federal prison. The Los Angeles Police Department is not a legitimate agency engaged in the law. You need to understand what's going on in the state of California, which is giving implications for what's going on in this country. And for such a time as this, you need to be aware about the reality of what is going on. That which you cannot see is underway, and it is evidence through what you can see. It is evidence through what you can clearly see. You can clearly see the evidence of that which is invisible. Okay? And what you want to acknowledge with regard to the demonic, with regard to Satan, with regard to the operation of evil, it's actually irrelevant. Because while you want to disregard Satan and the demon possession, you are necessarily disregarding what you are looking at the evidence of it. It doesn't matter what you want to acknowledge anymore because you're looking at the facts and the ongoing direct evidence of it. All right? The entity is engaging in what is supernatural. There is under no circumstances ever that this light activity that's going to occur. In addition to what, again, the sun is rising and setting in alignment to my apartment. The entity, and then the ongoing pattern of, and this is how you are identifying the stalking conduct by the government, contrary to what they thought it engaged in, by that's deliberation. The entity intends to discard the targeted individual, which is the ongoing threat to your life. A government that's monitoring you has in every way the reasonable, and it's reasonable to be threatened by that and to be fearful of it, has every intention to discard you, to do away with you, and the people of the state and the government itself creating its own narrative as to what actually happened. Okay, including the people of the state that are delivering the morning and evening news to you. All right, and that's not an exaggeration. That's what's going on in this country. The entity is engaging in the demonic, and this demonic conduct is going to be prosecuted as terrorism. And while you're looking at it, under no circumstances is it ever happening. And there is no scientific expert that you could put on the stand that's going to provide what is an evidence of, an explanation for it. This is a pattern. This is an ongoing documented pattern, an entirely different region. There is no scientific explanation for what, and this is what I was telling you, it has nothing to do with the light that you're looking at that's covering all the grounds out here. The people of the state that live on the hillside up there, way in the distance, that has nothing to do with sunlight that's covering their apartment. You're looking at the ground that has nothing to do with sunlight, and this is the illusion that we've been told. Because you've been told that, and because it looks like it, that logically follows. This is all we know. We're here living in the physical. You're not really concerned about the spiritual. And I'm not saying you need to become some guru and become obsessed about it, but this is a very specific lesson that we in the United States, particularly because the government doesn't have a legal basis to do it, and it's capable of being criminalized and prosecuted. And the evidence of the demonic is also serving to inform you. That's light activity, impossible light activity, even if that was the sun over Alvarado Gardens, but you know that it's not. It's rising and setting here in alignment to my apartment. And it's relevant because an impermissible threat is being posed. These demons, which are stalking in helicopters and stalking, living at Alvarado Gardens, everybody's going to federal prison. And then those that are not even natural born citizens are going to be deported. And that's apartment 1800 through 1818, every single last one of them. But the entity is surrounding everybody that lives on the hillside. They're all monitoring. They're sex offenders, and they all know when I'm pulling my panties down. All of them. And the light activity is the evidence of it. This is evidence of criminal surveillance. This is evidence of the sex offense. This is evidence of demon possession. Demons are present and they're surrounding and they're focused on you. Focused. So let me give you one more example. This is the same line. Remember the light activity when I showed you this line, light aiming through this line, which right now is appearing on the floor. This same exact method of aiming, engineer magnifying light, and you saw a crooked line that was concentrated going across, diagonally across, that it has nothing to do with sunlight. You're witnessing the evidence of Satan. Satan is a spirit, not a person. Okay, and it's evident through the environment. And a spirit, again, Satan, which is not which is a spirit and not a person, uses people. That's what group stalkers are. They're demon possessed, and they're highly malicious. All right, and the prosecution is evidence on the environment. So I want to be clear, this is documentation of the impermissible threat posed by the demons, the state actors that are LAPD. And I want to be clear, that's the pattern of conduct that they're engaged in, which is communicating a threat. That is literally while I am uploading the video for today, March 31st, 2024, of this impossible light activity that's on my ceiling. The direct evidence against the people of the state, everybody at Alvarado Gardens is going to federal prison. They're all losing custody of their children. They are all permanently losing Section 8, the affordable housing benefits that they're currently getting with the criminal record, which again, federal law is going to recognize. This will be a basis for disqualification and for such housing benefits, and it's also going to be the basis upon which it's permanently terminated. The entity is also going to deport those that aren't natural born citizens here in this community that are living at a crime scene, engaging in criminal surveillance on behalf of a corrupt law enforcement agency, all of whom are demons. Those are demons stalking in a helicopter, and then you've got demons that are living in an apartment community, keeping me under surveillance together on behalf of these demons. All of them are monitoring on a communication device, and the entity is communicating a threat while I then upload publish my documentation to the Google Drive. All right, this is documentation of all of that at the same time. It's 9:47 a.m. While the entity is maintaining the light source over me, I want to be clear, while the entity is maintaining the light source over me, I will upload videos to the Compare the P.O.C. folder just for the ongoing, so you can see it again and juxtapose what you're seeing here, which is no explanation for light on the floor inside of my living room, in the same way it's not explanation for light on my ceiling in my bedroom. Like I told you before, it has nothing to do with this light source. This is witnessing the demonic, because the sun is not over the Upland Public Library or the Ovid Family Community Library or the Fontana Lewis Library. The evidence of that, which I've already published. You're witnessing the demonic while you're in the state of Florida, looking up in the sky and looking at a light source. It's not the sun. We are not looking at the same object. You are becoming aware of that which you need to become aware of. And this is the presence. How is Satan present? Satan is a spirit. Okay? And Satan also wants you to be ignorant about the reality of his existence. So those who have an ear, pay attention. Okay? Because you're looking at the evidence of it. I'm not speaking in fables and riddles to you. I'm giving you the objective evidence. You're looking at it. That's impossible light activity. The sun that's above us does not engage in gymnastics. This is a covering. There's a covering above the window. Sunlight has a downward trajectory. Sunlight does not engage in what is going down and then bending under and coming through like a laser through closed blinds. The blinds are closed, okay? And in my room, the closed blinds, you've got light up here. In the living room, the blinds are closed and it's coming down here. And you've got that appearing on my ceiling in the absence of any light source. It has nothing to do with that light source. This light source has nothing to do with what you're looking at the sky space in Florida. And I'm just using Florida as an extreme example. It's the same in Nevada, in Northern California, in Sacramento, in San Francisco, over the Metro Courthouse in Los Angeles. It's not the same light source. It's right here over my apartment. Well, it remains over me all day long, which is what I have been documenting for a term of years, while a government has engaged in ongoing criminal surveillance in violation of constitutional and human rights. This is documentation of the sex offense. It's also a sex offense while the government places you under surveillance inside of your private space, including when my panties are down. They're all paying attention at the same time, pacing all around me. Demons that want to engage in that group stalking conduct at those particular moments, that's a sex offender. Okay? The quintessence of a highly demented, sexually motivated crime. That's a sex offender. That's what the group stalkers are. That's what the demon possessed are, and they don't want you to know. And it is the evidence of it is the specific environment. It is currently 9:50 a.m., and this is POC.